Hi, I'm Dr. Cynthia Clark. I'm the president of Longevity Wellness. I'm an acupuncture physician, applied clinical nutritionist, and I'm the creator of Energy Evolution. Last week, we were talking about cognitive decline and how to prevent it, specifically how to prevent Alzheimer's. And I asked the question that many of you have responded to. The question is, what is the number one thing that you can do now to prevent cognitive decline in your later years? Remembering that cognitive decline symptoms may show up only 10 years after the initial onset has started. And this is the same thing that every single type of doctor that I've ever studied has said. Every single person who's ever been an expert at this, they have all said that there's one thing in common. The good news is that you have complete control over this. It has to do with increasing blood flow to the brain. In fact, it's blood flow to the brain that has the greatest contributing factor to do with our intelligence. It also has the most to do with anti-inflammatory, because the more blood flow we can get, the less inflammation has opportunity to set in our bodies. So what is the number one thing that would increase blood flow, especially to the brain? And that is, dun, 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 exercise. So the good news is that this is something that's in your control. This is something that you can do. And I say this even from the perspective, currently I am a triathlete. I say this even from the perspective of, if you have an injury, there are exercises that you can do. I promise you. They may not be the ones that you want to do, especially if you're like me and you're used to being a strong girl and you can do lots of things. Then to have to take a step back and to do a more humble exercise can be hard on the ego, but not the body. It's just the ego. I'll give you an example. There was one exercise when I injured my knee several years ago that I was a personal trainer at the time. This is while it was after I'd become an engineer, and it was while I was in Chinese medicine school. And of course, as an engineer, personal trainer, I had read the studies on what were some of the most effective things that I could do for myself while I was rehabbing from this. And study after study would show that there was one exercise that really helped. And I worked at a gym. I had a gym membership. I had that piece of equipment right in front of me. But I had a strong ego. I was used to being able to get out and to run, bike, swim, to be a martial artist, to use my body in a lot of ways. And so not being able to exercise the way that I wanted to, the way that I was accustomed to, made me less, no, these are excuses. I'm making the excuse now. I'm even in this moment saying the excuse that I had back then. The truth of the matter was, there's no reason for not doing it. I'm just confessing that I was really bored with the recumbent bicycle. But it is fantastic for knee injury. So I put some time in on it, not as much as I should have, but I put some time in on it. And it absolutely did help. It's a non-weight bearing exercise. I took the weight off and let me do the exercise. So there are modified exercises that you can do in whatever condition that you're in. There are modified exercises that you can do that can help increase blood flow and decrease inflammation throughout the body. The reason that this is so important is because in the past 13 years, the amount of progress that we've made with treating Alzheimer's and cognitive decline through pharmaceuticals is almost nil. We're terrible at it. And there's even evidence that shows, if you'll look in the research article quoted below, there's even evidence that shows that Alzheimer's disease may be the third leading cause of death after heart disease and cancer. So these are important metrics to pay attention to. As you read below, you'll see that nearly 1 in 3 seniors who die in a given year may be suffering from Alzheimer's disease. So things that are not Alzheimer's disease, normal memory issues, are things like transience, which is forgetting facts over time. That's just use it or lose it kind of memory. The absent-mindedness, the blocking, the answer being right on the tip of your tongue, but not being able to remember it in the moment. Misattribution, remembering something accurately except for detail. Suggestibility, this is the most common factor that's considered in false confessions, where people become convinced that they have done something that they didn't actually do. By the way, that's covered very well in the book Persuasion. how that happens and how to avoid it. And also bias, like how your mood and your beliefs can affect your energy level. So last time we talked about the types of Alzheimer's disease, and we talked specifically about trauma. The second one is today, it's inflammation. And so the most important things that you can do for that, in addition to the exercise, is also avoiding inflammatory foods. So avoid the high sugars, drink lots of water, and eat your healthy oils. So these are the non-inflammatory oils. These are going to be coconut oil and the high quality olive oils. Be sure not to get the rancid ones because the cheap ones can go rancid. Oh, and by the way, Luann, there's a really, really cheap brand of coconut oil that you can get at, I think they have it at Walmart. It's not worth it. That's not a well-processed coconut oil. Be sure to stick to the ones that come in a glass bottle that are preferably the ones that say organic on them. The Spectrum has a really good one, but there are other ones out there. Just not that particular one. It's the only one I found that doesn't test well. All right, next week we'll be tuning back in and we'll talk about another cause of cognitive decline, and this one has to do with the way you eat. So this week I'd like to issue another challenge and let me know the foods that you think would be the greatest significant contributing causes to cognitive decline. Dr. Cynthia Clark, that's good medicine.